Ready for a fight? A challenge?
Tell me more about the challenges in different rounds.
Sure. Each round's got 3 challenges. This round remains on home turf, but the future rounds will find the local champs fighting those from other cities. You win the last round, you win it all. You're the champion of Mars.
Who or what do you fight in the challenges?
You can fight other guys, or the some who come to only fight the creatures. Either way, the further you go, the stronger your adversary will be. Each subsequent challenge pushes the limits.
Good one, son. Here, listen up. Tonight, there will
Impressive. Your reward for victory.
Hey there.
Hey there back. What can I do you for?
Looking for a guy. Used to fight in the arena. Name's Derek Labor.
Derek Labor? Yeah, I know who that is. Heard rumors going around about it. Oh yeah, I heard Derek got himself into some shit with some Vori. He decided he didn't want to lose fights they were fixing or something. Just what I heard, but if it's true, I doubt you're going to see him again. But you know, if you want to ask around, if it's about betting, talk to the bookie. He may know more. No one knows more about the fighters than he does.
Thanks. I'll do that. Fortunately, this is beyond my skill level.
Hey there, new blood. What can I do you for?
I'm looking for a man named Derek Labor. He fought here?
Sure. Yeah, he fought a couple times. He's making a name for himself before he got himself caught in some shit. But you're asking me to speak out of turn, which could come back to bite me. That kind of risk should be worth compensation.
Another man with his hand out. How much do you want?
Let's just say I wouldn't have the same hesitation if I was having this conversation with a tournament champion. At least the winner of the first round.
I'll think about it.
To make ends meet. Just the other day, I had to push my eldest to work. Well, there was just no other way.
He's 14. He's not a child anymore. It's about time he made himself useful.
But he's so little. And the rent leaped at my boss's store, so even with the extra income, we still get paid less than before. All while we Bori chuckle and fatten.
Life isn't fair. You only keep looking forward. Even if there's nothing to look forward to.
Veronica, I need a favor. I'm looking for access to the professor's compiled research documents. Might be a big help to me.
It's just not my work to share, Zachariah. If he came back, I don't think he'd be too pleased to find out I handed it away. You ever find out what happened to him?
From what I could gather, he was arrested and thrown into the correctional camp. Apparently his criticism of the government was more important to them than his work. Times we live in, I guess.
I don't even know what to... Such a loss. A waste. Maybe his work shouldn't be abandoned. If he's not coming back anytime soon, or at all, and you can do good with it.
Hi, Scott.
Hello, my boy. How are you? Nothing broken, I hope?
Unfortunately, I've received confirmation of what Veronica suspected. Charles was arrested and deported to a camp as a punishment for his comments. I'm sorry, Scott. I did bring back his research, though, since you wanted it.
Thank you, Zachariah. How awful. But what is happening to our dear pundits? We won't beat Aurora if we get rid of our scientists. Anyway, I'll take a look at these documents. No doubt our dear Charles was worried. They're coded. It's funny, it reminds me of the code we used as students, so that the professors wouldn't know about our adventures. All this is a little far away. I'm gonna have to think about it. Thank you, Zach. Thanks again. Lieutenant?
Beggars seem to be multiplying. Where could they be coming from?
I'd imagine the slums. Poor folks. They're almost all.
Zachariah, a pleasure as always. What may I do for you?
I finally managed to meet the merchants you told me about. It wasn't easy. The mob kidnapped them for serum. I freed them before talking to them.
I'm sure gratitude helped to loosen their lips. So what knowledge was gleaned from such lengths?
Word that Aurora is running large-scale excavations along the shadow paths near our territory, and in the process uncovering important objects, maybe even a relic.
Fascinating. Finds that are no doubt better off in our hands than those of Aurora's Technomancers. Keep those merchants close, Zachariah. Information like that is such a priceless commodity. You are no more free to roam than the rest of us. Of that I have no doubt. But if you find yourself with access to a rover and perhaps find a way to that excavation site and locate the relic, well, you cannot know the value it might hold if brought back to us. It may seem petty. It's a mission for some rusty relic that may or may not even exist. However, if you are able to slip away from Ophir,
I wanted to talk to you about something.
what about?
We're looking for a scientist who disappeared. Name's Charles Seeker. All I found is some of his research. Seems he was studying Technomancers before getting arrested and sent to a camp.
Charles Seeker. Yes, the geneticist. Geneticists pose a risk. Scientific discoveries are always threatening to expose our secrets. Your friend Scott even worked on the same research years ago. Never found out what Scott did or didn't discover, though. He ended up drinking himself into irrelevance. So I stopped worrying. Whatever research you found, make sure no one sees it. Could be our downfall.
Do we know what forces Aurora deployed to protect the site?
The greatest challenge shall be their own Technomancers. I am certain they'll be supported by numerous soldiers and laborers willing to lay down their lives in their defense. But I have faith in you, Zachariah Rogue Mancer. Endowed with the intelligence and adaptability that both your names imply, you always find a way. And I wouldn't be surprised if you come out the other side having made new allies. You are no more free to roam than the rest of us. Of that I have no doubt. But if you find yourself, it may seem petty. It's a mission.
What do you think of our army?
A question requiring a delicate response indeed. For we are a part of that body. An integral part, perhaps. A vital organ, but still just a part. As such, one may not talk about the whole without impugning the parts, which in truth I am not wont to do. But with that spoken, it is very old. On one hand, good, well-established, the best equipment, disciplined troops, professional. But on the other hand, set in its ways, a double-edged sword indeed. For inflexibility is merely a step from paralysis, an iteration of the old dog's new tricks scenario. And with ranks practically inherited, there hardly exists a culture that encourages hard work or passion among the troops. Why work towards something that's unachievable? And of course, it's less than ideal that there are far too few of our kind among the ranks. Next to Aurora, we're surprisingly deprived in that field. And they're in the process of collecting the laurels of their politics right now.
Can you tell me anything about a soldier in my unit named David Ward?
I've been privy to some scarce talk of the boy. Tales of a once good soldier grown bitter and cynical, and none too pleased to be answering to a Technomancer. More nuisance than cause for concern. But just be aware, Zachariah, for one who turns a blind eye might just lose the other in the process.
What can you tell me about Jeffrey Hunter, another soldier in my unit?
Little of note. A spry young farm boy, little more than a simpleton fresh from greenhouse, if word serves correct. So as always, at least from my perspective, caution is in order when it concerns anyone like this lad, anyone who is not a brother or sister.
What can you share about us, Technomancers?
We are, as you have learned, mutants, Zachariah. But while other mutations form the poor, deformed creatures that we use like commodities, ours has produced within us gifts. Whether this knowledge is shared among the Technomancers of Aurora, I know not. We are all still learning about ourselves, with knowledge segregated from faction to faction, corporation to corporation. Even Aurora conducts experiments that would be of interest to us. We whose gifts have turned us into living weapons. And despite our strengths, despite our role as guardians of knowledge, the last link to the Earth's past, the sole reason the corporations have not yet collapsed, our instability has ensured that any seat of power remains elusive to our kind. But never forget, no matter what our enemies, even those inside abundance, may think or espouse, they need us. It is not the other way around. We are our own masters, never slaves.
Do you have any insight on Alan Mancer?
Zachariah, listen closely. As much as my heart yearns to spurt vitriol at his name, discretion is the better part of valor. Speak neither ill of the dead nor of those who could make you so. That man is filled with more blind aspiration than sense, easily manipulated by those who know how to flatter him. He would give up everything for the slightest bit of praise. He is the antithesis of you. While you ascended, his weaknesses have kept him from initiation, and he holds it against you. But do not get sucked into his petty games. He is a dolt, worthy of less attention than contempt.
What can you tell me about the ASC?
There is nothing to learn, officially, because no one talks about them out of fear. Speak of the devil and he shall appear and all. Silly superstition. But fear drives men as much as serum, I suppose. The true source of their power ultimately stems from their surveillance services. And with the war comes near limitless authorities in such matters. More often than not, authorities are aimed at their own dissenters rather than any deeply tangible threat to our great Mother Abundance. At their core, they are quite simply the most mortal of threats to us. So I would advise you, stay in line, do as you are told, and attract little attention, for it is now a perilous game of survival.
Do you have any wisdom you can share regarding Colonel Victor?
Wisdom or warning? He is a dangerously smart man with an insatiable hunger for power, an unending drive to have us in his pockets, a chess master, I fear, with just enough savvy to find a way to do it too. Someday.
What can you share with me about the Source?
The center of all abundance's power in Ophir, each building a symbol of its proper function, with the source set directly upon an ancient colonist dome that provided the vast bulk of our collection. Fascinating, is it not? Even if vestiges are all that remains of the old dome. To think that there was once a man, exactly where we settled, who had seen Earth with his own eyes, perhaps touched it with his own hands.
What do you know about my barracks?
A perfectly inelegant mix of testosterone and bachelorism. What could I add that you do not know for yourself firsthand? Poor food, worse quarters, but it serves its purpose. Barracks for the source, no more, no less.
What can you tell me about the exchange quarter?
A melting pot for sure, forging an amalgam of cultures, commodities, and peoples, filled with merchants hawking equal shares of wares and information with such freedom that it gives the impression that it is unburdened by the scrutiny and heavy hand of abundance's surveillance. An impression that is, in a word, faulty.
What do you know about the underworks?
Little more than common knowledge. Kilometers of tunnels lined with endless rows of warehouses storing who knows what for who knows whom, forged in part by man, in part by nature, and in part by the creatures that dwell within them as they extend all the way out to the ancient waterways.
That dome we went to with Master Shan, where did it come from?
A relic of the first colonists, long forgotten until after the turmoil, discovered upon the building of Ophir's first shadow path, and finally opened as a place of knowledge by one of our own, transformed into a storehouse for knowledge and secret discoveries until its collapse. So much was lost, but you were not. And if nothing else, I have that to be grateful for. For it is now we need fresh blood more than anything.
Zach, good to see you. How does army life suit you?
Pretty good, thanks. How are you? When's your next deployment?
I do not know, but what I do know is this. They're going to be sending me to the front lines alongside all the others. That I'm certain. I want to make sure that none of us become close. No matter. You're not here to listen to my belly aches.
What can you tell me about Alan?
You shouldn't care about that little prick, Zachariah. That moron is only worthy of attention because he is the physical amalgamation of all the flaws Technomancers have. He would be a wonderful case study for the Seekers, but other than that, he doesn't deserve my attention, and especially not yours.
Do you know my captain?
I've had the opportunity to run into her a couple of times. She is a respectable woman, I think. She's known to be fair with men. Of course, the fact that she is not a Technomancer means that she'll never understand the stress and priorities we must face. Only our own can really understand what we're living. But you'll have to deal with it. You could have come at a worse time. To a certain extent, I think that she won't hesitate to defend you against those who won't miss an opportunity to get in your way. If you don't disappoint her, of course. Be straightforward with her, and tell her what you want her to know. I think that with that woman, that is the best way to do it.
What do you know about Colonel Victor?
Do you know how dangerous this question could be? That man oversees the ASC. He has ears everywhere, and he has terrorized the population since he took it over. I'm convinced that he is aware that we are hiding something from him, and he hates it. Everything he doesn't know, he believes, deserves his interest, and he's right in that regard. He will try everything in his power to find out our secret. He will not hesitate to use every plot and scheme in his book. If we were to have only one enemy, it would be that man.
You're very bitter when it comes to our corporation.
Why shouldn't I be? People here are naive, content, and perfectly happy. Maybe I am a little more outspoken than others. What can I say? You were lucky that you can leave your place of birth. How many have had such luck? And now that you are a Mancer, you will have the joy of discovering the breeding we have to give in to. A few years from now, we will find a Technomancer spouse whom you will be expected to have little Technomancers with. And then it will be their turn to be united against their own will, and so on. You wonder why Technomancers are degenerates? We are all inbreds. Not mentioning the fact that we are also used as war weapons. The fact that we have no hope of getting out of the golden prison in which we have been locked up. Anyway, don't let me break your spirit. You are different. Maybe you will manage to escape all of this. If so, I'm with you wholeheartedly.
What else can you tell me about the dome that we visited?
Alas, we lost with it alongside all the knowledge that we had accumulated there. We could send men to scour the place, I suppose, but with all that sensitive information, it may not be the smartest idea.
What do you know of our chapel?
It is built on an ancient colonial ruin. The ones who erected it made sure that we could only get in through 2 Technomancer doors.
There isn't anything new to report. Goodbye, Sean.
Goodbye, Zach. Be careful.
Lieutenant Zachariah Manzer. What a pleasure.
Hello, sir. I don't think I've had the honor of meeting you before.
Ah, of course. I am Colonel Victor Watcher of the ASC.
Colonel.
At ease, Lieutenant, at ease. Simply came to congratulate you and learned that you become a Technomancer of the highest degree. For a young man from the Rogue family, this is a terrific achievement.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Your road must have been difficult, but you persevered. An outsider who managed to work his way into the ranks of the elite Technomancers. A marvelous story, especially given their secrecy. They've always fascinated me. Do you have any insight as to why they chose to be so insular?
I'm sorry, Colonel, but I don't know what you mean.
What a shame. By coming to you out of friendship and camaraderie, I was hoping that you wouldn't treat me like an outsider, too. All right, then. Back to your duties. But think about what I asked, and we'll see each other again.
Hi.
Lieutenant, how can I help you?
Word on the street is that the locusts are swarming the underworks. Patrol gonna get it under control before the shit hits the fan?
Unlikely. High Command's about as interested in the slums as they are the underworks. Why try to spit shine a turd? And what's it to you anyway? As it goes, little nuisances have a way of becoming big problems over time. Proliferation. And I'd be willing to pay to nip it in the bud now, before they start to hit our warehouses and personnel, too. Well, you'd have more luck killing them in their nests than hunting them one by one. Or you could booby-trap the tunnels and catch the rats while they roam. Your call.
You already back, Lieutenant Zachariah?
Where exactly were the terrorists seen?
Not wearing name badges or carrying signs, for fuck's sake, Lieutenant. It's gonna take a little more legwork. They're in the slums. Open your ears, bend some arms. I'm sure you'll find some creative ways to find them and their leader, whose head I want on a stick.
Report?
What do you have, Lieutenant?
Sorry to say the deserters ran off before we could intervene. We didn't find any.
Didn't I tell you to make this the priority? But you just did what you wanted, and they took off while you took your time. Expected more of you, Lieutenant. And this is gonna cause a shitstorm for the Army. Good. Moving on. We have new missions. Bit of a welcome change from the big chases. We've got state officials arriving in Ophir today, and an ASC warning that an influx of Aurora spies in the city are planning trouble. For security, the officials will be picked up in rovers outside the city and brought to the hangars, rather than coming through the station. We've got brigades tracking the spies, but you're gonna have to usher them through the slums and make sure they get to our quarters safely. No excuses. No failures. We clear? Questions, Lieutenant?
And what of the opponents to the regime?
Their dreams go only as far as the corporation's demise, with no plans to fill the void that they'd leave. They're cutting off their nose to spite their face, trying to undermine our unity in times of war. They're terrorists, nothing more. They're either nihilists or simply naive to Aurora's manipulation as they try to achieve some unknown end without even understanding that they're working for the enemy. But according to the ASC, their numbers are rising and their structure is stabilizing. And we're the only barrier to them harming more people.
And tell me what you know about the enemies of Aurora.
What is there to say about Aurora? Their profound youth, rivaled only by the enormity of their ambition, threatening to take all that we've built. Cult with their technomancers guiding their minds and souls with as much ease as they guide their weaponry. How they trained and equipped so many eludes us, and therein lies their advantage. That and their willingness to send civilians, even children, to die in war.
How is Aurora governed?
A dowser at the helm. Sans a council of the people around him. Their former dowser died of old age, replaced by the well-admired General Wisdom. Ridiculous people with ridiculous names, if you ask me. That's as deep as my knowledge goes on the subject.
And how goes the war, Captain?
We're mired by setbacks, but it's nothing we can't recover from. We're better trained, better armed, and now with our elite units, we're more capable of combating their technomancers. Victory will be ours in time. Our experience and stability will win out over their youth and religious fanaticism soon enough.
And what of the opponents to the regime?
They're either nihilists.
can I help you?
Made the traps you suggested. Now they just have to be set to catch the locusts.
And I'll make sure they find their way to the tunnels. Keep the filthy things from reaching the surface and poaching our goods. And Lieutenant, thank you for caring. The poorest of us rarely get shown such concern. It's your lucky day. I need a favor, if you have the time, on top of the missions the captain already gave you.
Depends on the favor.
Soldiers back from the front are barricaded inside the warehouse. But they think Aurora's outside and they're in the middle of a war zone. They've terrorized the merchants, but honestly, that's not even the worst of it. According to internal reports, they're not just soldiers. They're test subjects for a new combat drug that increases their strength tenfold. Their paranoia is probably a result of the drug, but it makes the situation even more dangerous. I would prefer it if you could reason with them. You could use force, but in their state, the drugs could push them over the edge. A straight-up fight could kill them. First things first, we need to help get them quarantined and away from civilians to prevent further collateral damage. I know you're up to your neck in other responsibilities, but please, this is a favor for me and a favor for the guys. If the ASC handles it instead, I know I'm gonna be writing letters of condolences. Don't let it come to that.
How does he think a noob who's not even a real soldier will be able to reason with a corporal hopped up on some super drug? He knows Technomancers aren't magicians, right?
And out of the mouths of babes. A simple infantryman, no offense, with the wisdom of a king. I wonder, if I tried this drug, hard to be sure without knowing the molecular makeup. But perhaps we could dig a little deeper into this corporal while researching for that antidote. Standard experiment protocol. Research the subject before formulating the hypothesis. Secondary sources like his family and friends, although friend is quite subjective, could be useful. And then we follow it up with, where was I?
Soldier, please let me in. It's imperative I speak to someone in charge.
Ma'am, your husband. He's one of the soldiers who returned yesterday?
Yes, I'm Corporal Tyrone Ward's wife. So he is back? Why haven't I been permitted to see him? What's wrong?
Ma'am, he's safe, but he's scared. Paranoid. Suffering severe post-traumatic stress. So what I need for you to do is tell me something. Anything that might help me convince him to listen. Before he gets himself killed.
Tell him I'm here. Tell him I'm waiting to see him. Dying to see him. Tell him about the ribbon he sent me for my hair. And that it's not just me waiting anymore. That we're going to have a child soon.
Leave this bag, please.
It belongs to you? Yeah, I figured. But I was expecting...
A man? Sorry to disappoint. But since you're here, minding my business, maybe I should introduce myself. I'm Bulgakov, one of the leaders of the opposition army. You gonna arrest me now?
Arrest you and take that bomb before it does any harm to the city.
You don't have a damn clue, do you, officer? That bomb was never meant for the city. This is our city, too. It was meant to take out the access roads to the city, to block the army convoys. It's time this fratricidal war finally came to an end. You think we're fighting for Aurora? You're wrong, officer. The opposition is made of patriots, and the war we're losing is making the true patriots weaker, while the politicians and their secret police grow stronger.
You're no patriot. A patriot would let her voice be heard at the assembly of the people, not set off bombs in the city she claims to love.
You couldn't possibly be that naive, could you, officer? Ask around. See if you can find just one person who dared to speak up at your precious assembly and is still around to talk. The only voice ever heard from is the Watchers. The rest are silenced, and will continue to be until only the ASC agents remain. Stay suspicious of me. It's your right. But I don't lie, officer. I'd never hurt the people on purpose. I only ever wanted to free them. Let me. Don't stand in my way, because it's the only road to a better abundance.
I'm doing the right thing. Go on. Go! But leave the bomb. I trust you enough, but not that much.
I hear you. Thanks. And goodbye, officer. Beware the Watchers.
Unfortunately, this is beyond my skill level.